Yes, people, what's happening? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to another live stream. And it was a most welcome weekend off for Chelsea this weekend. No losing to get depressed about. And we did have some good news, or maybe not so good news. Julian Nagelsmann obviously pulled out of the race to become Chelsea manager on Friday, leaving Mauricio Pochettino in the driver's seat to become the next Chelsea manager on that short list, with Vincent Kompany from Burnley, and obviously Ange Postecoglou at Celtic was another one that was supposedly on that list as well. But things have developed quite quickly over the weekend, and it looks like Mauricio Pochettino is imminently going to be named as the next Chelsea manager. We've obviously got a game on Wednesday night against Brentford as well, a little West London derby. Can Lampard get his first win as caretaker manager? Who knows? We've lost 4 in a row. Is it going to be 5? I mean, I don't really have any confidence that they're going to score a goal, let alone win a game. So, yeah, this is kind of where we're at right now. You know, a nice weekend off, but yeah, things are getting down to the business end of the season. We're getting to the business end of this managerial race. Firstly, mate, thanks for coming as always. Did you enjoy having no game this weekend?
Absolutely. Yeah, it was a really, really nice thing to not have your weekend ruined by our club for a change, which is, yeah, it's nice. It's nice to have a little bit of a break, realistically, from sort of the doom and gloom of losing all the time and not playing well and just this horrible season. So it was nice to have a bit of a break. Usually I don't like it when Chelsea are on a bit of a break, but it says a lot about this season that I think everyone was quite relieved that we didn't have to play this weekend.
Well, I mean, the way we've been playing, it looks like the players have been on a permanent break all season. But, you know, we are where we're at. Obviously, we don't need to go into Nagelsmann. He pulled out. Pochettino, mate. We were chatting before we came on. Initially, I'll hold my hands up and be honest here, that when we were at the beginning of this process, he hadn't entered my thought process. When it was Nagelsmann and Enrique kind of at the front running for the job, I was very much on the Julian Nagelsmann train. Poch hadn't entered my train of thought. I didn't really entertain the idea of it. Yes, we know that he was potentially up for the job in September when Tuchel got removed. But now that kind of Nagelsmann's out, Enrique's out, you know, with the other names on the list, Pochettino is the obvious choice. He's the best of the bunch. You could say the best of a bad bunch, whatever way you want to phrase it. But I have warmed to this idea a little bit. I mean, before we go into a bit more detail, mate, how are you feeling about this potentially? Have you warmed to it as well?
Yeah, a little bit actually, and I wasn't actually expecting to. I was, I was one of the people who was saying absolutely no chance to Poch for months. Been saying that he's a serial bottler, that like he isn't able to win trophies outside of one of the best front threes there is. But the more I've gotten to read about his work, the more I've seen of him personally as well. You can sort of see past the Spursiness of it. A lot of, he did very well at Spurs. At PSG, I think he was underwhelming, but that's a tough job, as is Chelsea. He's clearly a top manager for what he did at Spurs. Hopefully he delivers us some trophies. That's all that, we can really hope for. I think he'll be very good for developing some of our younger players. I really like the idea of Mudryk playing in sort of that Heung-min Son role for Poch, and it's also good news because we've heard since this news has started to come out, we've also heard that Mason Mount may potentially be signing a new contract, so maybe that's something to do with the manager as well. So I don't know. There's swings and roundabouts. I think he's got to hit the ground running for sure, because I think a lot of the fans won't allow him to have a moment to breathe if he doesn't start well. But I think it's important for everyone to be able to give him a chance if you can, if you feel like you can at least. But it is always tough when there's an ex-Spurs coach or an ex-Spurs player who comes to play for us, because there's always a little bit of that rivalry and animosity there. But hopefully, he's better for us than he was for them.
Yeah, I mean, look, I understand there's a lot of people that can't see past the Spurs thing, and that's fine. That's their prerogative. But I just look at it and I think I might be in a minority here. I'm not really that asked about it. It was 4 or 5 years ago now. He's been to PSG since and whatnot. I don't really care about it that much. Tottenham,
it was 2020, I think, when he was.
Yeah, I mean, I look at Tottenham and I think, we don't really like Tottenham. They're not a rival. Come on, like they don't win anything. They're not Do you know what I mean? Like, they're not a rival in the sense of they're a geographical rival, but they're not necessarily a rival in terms of competing with us for the big trophies, as it were.
No,
I,
no.
I,
Look,
maybe I'm a bit more lenient to this than some people are, but I just look at it and I just think, is it really that big a deal? Do you know what I mean?
in reality, but you know what? Football is a very tribal sport, and so as a result, you've got people like even like me who was dismissing the idea of Poch out of hand at the very start for the very notion of it. But yeah, like I said, the more I've had a chance to read into it, had a look at what he's actually been able to do, there's a chance I don't think he's the guy for taking us and building a dynasty around us or whatever. But if he can help develop some of these young players into a decent team, like make a team out of them and make some of these young players really start to click, whoever takes over after him will have a very, very good squad on their hands. So maybe that's what it is. We can win a trophy or two along the way, hopefully, but maybe it's more about development than it is about the finished result right now.
Yeah, I do you know what? I would agree with that, mate. I look at this, what looks like an imminent Pochettino appointment, and look at it as like, is this guy really going to be the main guy? We don't know that, but I would almost look at this as perhaps as Pochettino as a stepping stone for the next guy. I mean, I know we shouldn't really be thinking about the next manager now, but you know what I mean? I'm not looking at this and thinking, oh, this could be totally wrong. But Pochettino, is he likely to be here in 5 years? I would say probably not. But I think in a space of 2 or 3 years, he can do very good work and lay the foundations for someone else to come in, so that the next manager, whoever it is not going to be inheriting a massive mess that Pochettino is. But look, guys in the chat, I will get to all this stuff in a sec. But in terms of Poch himself, I look at it and I do draw a lot of similarities between the situation that he inherited at Spurs to what he's inheriting now at Chelsea. At Tottenham, there was a 30-plus man squad. We've got a 30-plus man squad. There are a lot of young players there. He had to develop those young players. I mean, he'll get a lot more back in at Chelsea than he did at Tottenham. He developed the likes of Dele Alli. Dele Alli was superb under Pochettino. Harry Kane, it was kind of the beginning of him starting there as well. Heung-min Son came on leaps and bounds. Moussa Dembele was one of the best midfield players in the world under Pochettino. Eriksen played some great football. I don't want to sound like I'm bigging up Spurs here, but, credit where credit's due. The Spurs side under Pochettino, it was fucking good. Let's be honest. It was good. Under Conte, I think we won 13 games in a row, which was the record, which was the then record at the time on our way to the title. We went to White Hart Lane. Pochettino's team ripped us apart. There's not many Spurs teams that have, against the good Chelsea sides that have torn us apart. And his Spurs side did that. Only manager to win at Stamford Bridge with Spurs. I think they beat us 3-1. And he's a good manager. He's got a good record of developing young players. He's tactically very good. He's comfortable in back 4, back 3. I do think he ticks a lot of boxes. Do you think he ticks a lot of boxes as well?
He does. It's difficult to judge his time at Spurs because ultimately he didn't win anything. And you can look at him getting to the final of the Champions League and say, yeah, that's a great result, for Spurs at least. But in the same breath, in the league, they came third when they were by far and away the strongest team in the competition that year. They, for all intents and purposes, based on the form of the top 6 and everyone else at the time, he probably should have won the league. But bear in mind, that's like 7-8 years ago now. Yeah. So it's a long time ago. So, he's probably had time to develop and hone his craft and his skills at both Spurs and then at PSG as well. It's proof that he can manage a big club with big egos because PSG is about as big as it gets, in terms of egos. And we've got a lot of egos in our squad as well. Like you said, we've got a big squad. We're looking for a clear out. Hopefully he'll be part of that process. I think he's got quite a good team around him from what I hear as well. He's got like a chief conditioning officer or whatever who helps with the fitness and stuff like that. So I hope that it will be a good appointment. All things point to it being quite a sensible choice in theory from the owners, but we're saying this now. In 6 months we could go, what have they done? They've made an absolute hash of it. But I think we can all think that at the moment, it's an option. Like it's maybe the best of what's left. You could argue maybe someone like Ruben Amorim, but he's not really proven at the top level. You've got Vincent Kompany, who's too young, really, and inexperienced at the top level. Postecoglou, who his best achievement so far has been at Celtic in the Scottish League, which
Yeah.
it's not nothing, but at the same time, it's
not
probably
an accurate barometer, is it? Really,
it's not that dissimilar to Company, where Company's at. So with the Championship getting promoted, it's about there. But it's a tough one. I think it's more. I think we're all hoping it works, and nobody knows if it's gonna. But I guess we'll see.
I think that's the biggest thing, is that right now for me, Chelsea's a massive gamble for a manager. The infrastructure, the facilities and whatnot, and the playing and the group of players there is second to none. But it's getting that all to gel. And I think as a manager, it's an attractive job, but it's also one where that it can easily chew you up and spit you out, and your reputation can be down the shitter. Like if it doesn't go right for you. So, Pochettino,
it's a really make or break kind of club for a lot of coaches.
But I think you look at it, and I just look at it and you think, like, and for any manager, there's no guarantee that any manager is going to succeed anywhere. Like there's going to be managers that will give you more of a chance to succeed in a certain period of time. But there's no guarantees in football. There's no guarantees. So people might look at Pochettino and think, oh, he's not that exciting. Oh, ex Spurs, this, that, whatever. But actually, like, this could be the sort of smart appointment that we've needed for a number of years now. And we just haven't had it. I mean, I came in for some stick on Twitter. Funny that, who would have thought that? And not the place to get stick normally, is it? But
it's usually such a friendly, nice environment.
Yeah, people are usually so friendly and so complimentary. I got told to go back to my bunk bed and have some cocoa with my mum by one user. That
sounds nice.
Yeah, it was a strange one. But basically, mate, anyway, like, it's not that important. But I put a tweet out basically saying that, like, Tuchel and Pochettino pre-Chelsea, other than Tuchel having a German Cup with Dortmund, in terms of what they'd won, there was no different. There's no difference really. Like,
it's quite similar, yeah.
They were very similar in terms of their. I wasn't saying in terms of their career, maybe in terms of their career path. In terms of Tuchel started at Mainz, which is kind of a lower level Bundesliga club, as Espanyol is in La Liga. Obviously, Tuchel then went to Dortmund, second best team in Germany, win the German Cup with Dortmund. I hate discrediting trophies because it's really annoying when people discredit trophies. But, is it that big an achievement winning a German Cup with the second best team in Germany? Probably not. But
a little, maybe.
Yeah. You still got to do it. Obviously, Poch didn't win anything at Espanyol. I don't think won nothing at Southampton. But I look at that Southampton team, and I don't know how much you remember of it, mate. I don't remember a lot of it. But
I mean, it was gutted by Liverpool, wasn't it? And he did quite well.
Mate, it was fucking good. Lallana, Mane, Graziano Pella. Mate, this was Van
Dijk was there at the time.
Mate, it was a really good team, and that Southampton team played some good football. I don't know where they finished, but they played good football there. I was just saying, there's not actually that much difference between Poch and Tuchel.
The other thing as well
lost the Champions League final with Spurs. Tuchel lost one with PSG. There wasn't pre-Chelsea. There wasn't much difference. Obviously, Tuchel come into Chelsea and done a very good job, but I think we're seeing now Tuchel's really struggling at Bayern at the moment. I know it's early days there, but my point was that actually Poch and Tuchel pre-Chelsea aren't that different. But I just got absolutely hammered for it.
Yeah, the other thing that I like about Pochettino potentially is, I don't know how much you guys remember that Spurs team that he did build, but they were bastards. They're like real shithousery kind of players, and we need a little bit more grit and a little bit more oomph in our team. And hopefully he can be the person to provide that. You had the likes of Lamella and Dyer.
Shithouse Lamella.
Really sort of shithouse players who would do absolutely anything to win. We all remember the Battle of the Bridge, of course. But yeah, maybe it can introduce a little bit more aggression into the team and get that sort of mindset right. With any luck, we'll see. It could be a masterstroke. It could be a disaster. So we'll see what it is. We can't all pretend that we all know which one it will be, because we don't know. But everyone will pretend, by the end of it, I'm sure.
I mean, mate, let's presume he does come in. I mean, this managerial thing has had a lot of twists and turns. I'm hoping there's not going to be another late twist in proceedings.
I hope not, because I don't know who's left.
Well, yeah, that's the problem. But I mean, what do you look at when he comes in? What do you look at, mate, as the number one thing he's got to address when he comes through the door? For me, I think it's got to be trimming that squad down and getting the players in the squad that you want. And then the recruitment's going to be really important this summer as well. I think those two things, players out the door, is probably the most important thing for Pochettino to address when he gets in. And then players that are going to come through the door in those key positions, a centre forward, a goalkeeper, a holding midfield player. I'd say those are the two things that are the most important things that he gets right. And those things are probably going to set the tone for how his reign goes, certainly early on.
Yeah, absolutely. He needs to be in charge for day one of preseason. That's important. That's important, making sure we get him in on time. All the players will know that he's in, all of that. The squad clear out's absolutely critical, mission critical, because if we don't do it, we're going to have a lot of the same problems next season that we do this season in terms of having too big a squad, unhappy players changing in the corridor, stuff like that. But, it's not good for a cohesive squad. The only thing, one of the things I do worry about with him tactically is, with Pochettino tactically, is he's not great against low blocks, which is historically Chelsea's issue.
Yeah, that's a tough one for us.
Yeah, and if you're not breaking down a low block with Messi and Neymar, well, not Messi, but Neymar and Mbappe. Or was Messi there when Pochettino was there? I can't remember.
Yeah, he was there for a little bit.
Yeah, mainly for Neymar and Mbappe. If you can't break down a low block with Neymar and Mbappe, are you going to do it with Havertz and Felix? Well,
no.
It's unlikely.
Probably not. Yeah.
It's so I hope there's been like a bit of a progression in his management. I hope as well that he really takes some of the players we've got and is able to utilize them to the fullest. I think that's a lot of the problem recently in recent years, is that while we've still gotten results, I think a lot of our players haven't been able to kind of reach their potential and hit their peak, which means that when we struggle, the best that they can perform isn't that great. But yeah, like I say, it's for me, he's a complete unknown quantity in terms of how it'll go. It seems sensible on paper. In your head tells you it's smart. Your heart tells you, I don't know.
Yeah, it is really tough. I always get on board when once a manager's signed and he's at the club and he's through the door. I will always back them 100% until it becomes unbackable. I'll criticize them where it's due and whatnot. But once you're the Chelsea manager, you will get 100% support from me until I'm unable to provide that anymore because the results are so shit. And that's the way that I've always been. I don't understand. And again, Twitter is not the best place to go for this sort of thing. But why there would be sections of the fan base that will not support a manager from the moment he comes in. We've got
to give him a chance.
It's not like when Benitez came in and he publicly criticised us in the past at Liverpool and criticised our players and whatnot. That was a different situation. But you have to back the manager from day one.
You've got to be behind it, because as fans, the best we can do is hope for the best, and in hoping for the best, we've got to get behind the team and support them as best we can, even if we think people who are in the club aren't doing the right things, or if they're not making if they're not necessarily the right person for the job. It's important to, at least at the start, back them with everything we've got to give them the best chance of hitting the ground running.
Yeah, I would agree, Matt. I think there's definitely exciting times. I'm just going to get to a few things in the chat very briefly. What have we got here? I'm fuming with Poch signing. Fair. I mean, each to their own. People can agree and disagree. Yes, CF Stephen, big up. Yes. What else we got here? Did you watch the Chelsea Spurs under-21s? Lost 3-2. Standard. Chelsea's DNA this season. Losing, whether it's at first team level, under-21 level, under-5s, whatever it is.
The youngsters aren't too bad this season.
No, I think they're okay. I think Harvey Vale scored twice. I mean, I think it might have been with you, mate. I think I've slagged off Harvey Vale as not good enough for the first team. I'm glad to see him doing well for the 21s, but I think I still stand by that. Spurs were 14th when he got sacked. Yeah. Generally speaking, though, any manager that's at a team when they get sacked, the team's probably not doing that well. Is what I would say. Yes, obviously it's not great, but You know, we were 16th under Mourinho when he got sacked.
Hey, listen,
Shit.
it fell apart after 5 years. It's that. I'm not saying we'll keep Poch for 5 years, but if it didn't fall apart for 5 years, I'd be pretty happy.
No, mate, I'll be pretty happy if it didn't fall apart.
If it didn't fall apart in 6 months, yeah.
Mate, I'll just take 3 games at this point. You know, mate, Poch just got my support if he gets us scoring if he gets us scoring in 3 games in a row. Mate, my manager, I'll bow down to him. It's like, mate, we're so starved of the just basic commodities of the game. We've got here. We all have to get used to the new Chelsea. It's all going to feel very odd. The owners have chosen a path very different to the old model. Yeah, mate, do you think that's another thing that because we've been so ingrained in one way for 20 plus years that fans are finding it difficult to transition to a new type of Chelsea?
Maybe, but we'll get there. Chelsea will always be there, whether it's the biggest club in the world winning Champions Leagues or, we're completely bankrupt and broken. We've been there, we've been both sides of that in our history, and Chelsea will be there before these owners. But was it here before these owners? It will be there afterwards. Same as the players. It's all about backing the club for the badge. It
is. Mate, I'm here for it. I mean, shamelessly, I will be the next season when he's announced if he's here. I will be getting involved in the He's Magic charm. Shameless. It will be shameless, but I'll be doing it for sure. Owners chose this route for the club. Jose/Enrique, etc., can't succeed with these players. They'd want even more signings. Yeah, but I think any new manager is going to want more signings, I guess. But yeah, I don't think it's set up for a manager that wants to win. That is a win now manager. Chelsea's not in a win now. Chelsea's not in a win now position. So that's why when people say, "Oh, we should have gone and got a winner," "Oh, why are we appointing someone that's not really won anything?" This and that. The reason is because Chelsea is not a club that is ready to win now. Chelsea needs someone like Pochettino that's going to come in, trim the squad down. There'll be a few more signings through the door, develop and improve what we've already got as well. Like a win now manager, like a Conte, like a Mourinho, that isn't going to work at Chelsea right now because it's not set up to win now. And that unfortunately, it hurts to say that, but that's just the reality.
Yeah, I mean, there's things we might win or something, but it might not be by design. I'm not entirely sure. I think the owners probably have a bit more of patience for not winning than the rest of the fans do. Of course, they want to see on-field success, but they also need a sustainable model and a return on their investment. So it's important as well.
Yeah, mate, return on investment. These guys, I understand it's a difficult situation, but when you've invested that much money into a business or a football club,
and you're going to invest even more with the stadium redevelopment and all the rest of it,
you better believe they want to see a return on their investment. They don't want
and that means success on the pitch, to a certain degree.
So
we'll get there. It's a long process. I think the owners have done a lot of things that are a little bit suspect. They've done a lot of things well, So I think we have to at least give them the benefit of the doubt that this is one of the things that will go well until it doesn't, and then we can say it isn't.
Yeah, for sure. Zula Lulu. Oh, but I absolutely battered that. I won't even try to say the second thing. Massively appreciate the comment. I'm glad someone enjoys listening to me. That's the main thing. But if one person enjoys listening to me, then it makes it worthwhile. So we're all good there. We need to get rid of 6 to 8 players ASAP. Yeah, I would even say more. But
yeah, it could be 10 or 12, But I don't think it's likely. I think I think you'll probably see about 6 or 8 go.
Do you think we'll struggle, mate, to get rid of the amount of players you want to get rid of? Do you actually think there's going to be takers for these players?
Yeah, I do. Because, in the same way that Chelsea doesn't look like a very attractive prospect at the moment, and we've still got managers who, a fair swathe of managers who are lining up to have a crack at the job, Nagelsmann, Enrique, company, now Pochettino, Postecoglou, all there is. In the same way, other clubs will be looking at the players going, wow, Chelsea are really struggling this season, but he's quite a good little player, Pulisic or Ziyech or whatever. He's been struggling there, but maybe we can get a tune out of him. And people will take that gamble. It's about finding the right price. And I think the owners are willing to cut their losses on a lot of these players as well.
It's not really their investments, are they?
Yeah, well, exactly. It's not investment, and it's to get the squad to the size that they want it. Yeah, I see us being able to sell some of our deadwood players. I don't think we'll sell them all because I think that'll be almost impossible. When you think about logistically you have to get an agree. Everything has to line up perfectly. Both the clubs have to agree, and the player has to agree, and the contract has to be right. And so when you think about all those things that have to be right, if you're going to do that, you have to do that successfully 10, 12 times. It's just not going to happen. But you could see 7, 8 players for sure on the way out. A lot of them will be working themselves to get out as well. They'll be talking to their agents. They don't want to be here anymore, the likes of Ziyech and stuff. So, some of them will be almost doing the work for them as well, which is helpful.
Mate, do you think with Poch's imminent arrival, Kane and Chelsea is always a conversation that doesn't really seem to go away that much? Do you think it increases our chances in any way whatsoever?
I'll be honest, absolutely no chance.
No.
Levy hates us so much that he absolutely hates us so much that he refuses to do business with us. So, on that basis, I very much doubt we're going to probably get Spurs' best player, Golden Boot winner, England captain. It's very unlikely. I'm not necessarily sure, and this might sound a bit controversial, I'm not even necessarily sure I would want Harry Kane. I think he's a phenomenal striker. We all know that. What he can do, a lot of other players can't do.
We haven't got the pieces around him.
But not the pieces around him necessarily. And the other thing is, every big moment in his career, he's not made the best of it.
I think we've talked about this before. He's not a big game player.
No, that's the thing. Like he'll score goals. He'll always score goals. But Maybe it's a symptom of him being at Spurs for too long, or maybe it's a symptom of him just who he is. I don't know. Maybe when he moves, he'll become an absolute goal machine, win tons of trophies. I don't know. But on the basis that at the moment he really doesn't perform in big games for club or country, not really. And so, I wouldn't be unhappy if we had Kane, but at the same time, nobody would be. But at the same time, I think it's actually a bigger gamble than people might think.
I would agree on that. Just whilst we're on number 9s, very briefly, do you think Pochettino's imminent arrival makes any difference to the future of Lukaku? Potentially.
Potentially.
Because obviously you look at Lukaku, I don't know if it's brinksmanship from Inter saying, he's definitely going back to Chelsea in order to try and get themselves a cheaper loan deal or a cut price transfer. We don't really know. But with obviously ownership and gone from before, Tuchel gone, do we think that Pochettino is the sort of guy that might want to use a Lukaku? Because whatever people think of Lukaku, he has scored goals wherever he goes. That's a fact. That's undeniable. You don't have to like him. You don't have to think he's a very good player. He's scored goals wherever he's gone. He is a regular source of goals. Now, we do need a regular source of goals, but at the same time, can you see any way that Lukaku plays for Chelsea again with Pochettino in charge?
It's hard to say, because it's not just down to Pochettino, and I think to a certain degree, I think the owners will be looking to cut their losses and bring in a new striker. Maybe I could see a scenario where Lukaku gets a little bit of time in preseason, maybe. But to be honest, I think it would be unlikely that he doesn't stink up the gaff and we just want to get rid of him. So, I think that's the thing with Lukaku. I think those bridges are kind of burned, I know he's a decent striker, scores wherever he goes, but I just don't see a future for him at Chelsea. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he comes back and absolutely starts banging him in for fun and everyone forgets about everything that's happened with him. But it's hard to forget,
It is hard to forget. And I think the most important thing is does he actually want to be here?
No, it's the answer.
Well, exactly. And
because he said he wanted to stay at Inter at all costs recently.
Yeah. I mean, and at the end of the day, mate, I don't care how good you are. If your heart's not fully in at Chelsea, you know where the door is. See you later. It is as simple as that. Moving away, mate, from obviously imminent appointment of Mauricio Pochettino, we had David Ornstein with some news this morning about Mason Mount. I mean, we couldn't possibly talk about Chelsea without talking about Mason Mount. So let's have a quick chat about Mason Mount.
He's not divisive at all.
No, not at all. Apparently, supposedly on Friday, a direct conversation took place between Bowley and Mount, where his importance and a desire to keep him was reiterated. Now, before we get into talking about contracts and whatnot, are you in the camp that it's important we keep Mount at Chelsea, or have you got to the point now where you're not really that arsed?
Personally, for me, I think I would like Mount to stay, and the reason being is that I think he's done more good for the club than bad, and I think he's earned that. He's earned at least a chance to stay for me, even though he's had a terrible, terrible season. And a lot of people might disagree with me. I think generally, on balance, he has done more good for the club than bad. This season has added a lot to the bad category, but before that, he added an awful lot to the good category. So for me, as well, I think it's also about not strengthening a rival. If he does go, it'd be likely to go to someone like Liverpool or, Arsenal were sniffing around as well. So there's a certain tactical or strategic element to it as well in terms of trying not to strengthen your direct rivals. But there are the questions about whether he actually does warrant the money that he's being offered. But maybe what we end up seeing, we don't know what the money is, but
no, we don't know.
I think maybe we'll see something either like where he will sign something not dissimilar to the contract Chilwell just signed, where it's like
4 years,
3 or 4 years plus one or whatever. So then Mount's in his prime in age-wise when his next contract runs up. Or it might be a situation where, because of what Pochettino said and coming in, Bowley's gone to Mount and gone, look, if you stay a year, you'll get a chance to perform and we'll put you in the team. If you perform, you can get your brand new sparkly new contract with all the bells and whistles. And if you don't, we're happy to sell you, and then you can go off and play somewhere else. And all you need is to commit for 1 year or 2 years or whatever. And in that way, kind of everyone wins. It's kind of a win-win for Mason, because if he performs, he stays and, he gets to stay at the club he loves and, perform well in front of the fans that do like him a lot. And if he doesn't, then he gets to get out of an environment that maybe isn't the most healthy for him. So, and it's a new challenge as well. And in the end, he still gets paid. So for me, the way I see it, it's a bit of a win-win for Mason, I reckon.
Mate, do you know what? One thing I always look at, right, with a player is when people say, "Oh, he's not good enough for the club. Oh, he's shit. Get rid of him." I always look at the teams that are interested in a player, and that tells you a lot about how good they are. You don't see any shit teams coming in for Mason Mount. There's no small football clubs. It's all big clubs, and I think that tells you something about the caliber of player he is. And as you rightly said, mate, he's not had a good season this season, but I'm about to say something shocking here. Footballers have bad seasons. I mean, who would have thought that? Who would have thought that? Footballers have bad seasons and they're entitled to not be good every single game.
Listen, Hazard had a year off, didn't he? We all remember that 15-16 was the year Hazard took off. And it doesn't make anyone love Hazard any less now.
No. I mean, Rashford last season was terrible.
Yeah, had a really bad season.
Had a really bad season. And as you said, mate, Mason Mount, 2 previous seasons, Chelsea's best player. I mean, you can agree or disagree with the Player of the Year awards, whatever, but he was in Chelsea's top 2, top 3 performers for the last 3 seasons. I think he got a goal or an assist in every single round of the Champions League knockout phases. En route to the trophy. He was so important there. He got 30 goal and assist season. And people go, oh, he only scored against the teams that got relegated or whatever.
No, it's great. We'd like to talk about them. We'd like to score against them now, wouldn't we?
Yeah, no one's fucking scoring any goals against any team. So, I think we'd quite happily take that back. But I look at him and I think it's really important as well that when you're doing such a massive squad redevelopment, a squad overhaul, is that you keep players around the club. Obviously, they've got to be good enough. Don't just keep them around for no reason, but keep players around the club that have come through the academy, that knows what it means to put the shirt on, knows what it means to play for the badge. You've heard Lampard talk about it. There's too many guys that don't know what it means to play for the badge. And when you're foreign guys coming in from other leagues, no disrespect for them, of course they're not going to get it in the same way, or it's going to take them longer to get it than guys that have been here since they were 5, 6 years of whatever age. They've come through the academy. They know exactly what it means to play for the club. You do need a bit of that
it's a bit of the
in and around
DNA,
the squad.
Isn't it?
You need the DNA in there.
The other thing about Mount as well is when a club decides to sell a player, if you look at the reaction of the fans to the club selling that player, you can tell whether you're getting a good player or not. So, for example, when Enzo left Benfica to come to us, Benfica fans were absolutely gutted that they didn't have their star boy anymore. And it showed, in how good he's been, that we were getting a really, really good player on our hands here. And I feel like a lot of Chelsea fans, not all, but a lot of Chelsea fans would be similarly gutted, not in the same way, because I think Enzo is better than Mount, but in a similar way, I think a lot of Chelsea fans would be gutted if Mount were to go. especially to a rival.
Yeah, I would agree, mate. I mean, let's throw this forward a little bit more. How would you envisage, if at all, presuming he stays, how do you think Mount would fit into a Pochettino midfield? Do you think Mount is the sort of player that Pochettino would like? Do you think you could see him doing a similar role to maybe what Christian Eriksen did at Spurs, or maybe what he's not quite the same profile of player as Moussa Dembele, but I think we could see him maybe do something similar to what Christian Eriksen did in that Spurs side potentially.
Yeah, Mount's very versatile. So there's a chance of him playing on that right hand side in sort of like if you're considering like a classic Pochettino formation, like a 4-2-3-1, having that sort of like right attacking midfielder could be a good space. That's where Eriksen used to play for Pochettino, and it's where Mount could play. He could also play in sort of Dele Alli's number 10 kind of role as well. And like you say, he could even play as in midfield. Whether it's a 3 at the back or 4 at the back, he could play in midfield as that sort of Moussa Dembele type kind of role. He's very versatile. He can play in the front 3, he can play in midfield, he can play between. So it's understandable why Pochettino would want to keep him around, for sure.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, to be honest, mate, I don't know about you, but I'll just be glad once this is sorted one way or another. It's just it's so tiresome. I don't know
It's been
how
a long
many.
saga, hasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how many ways you can rephrase like contract updates about Mason Mount. Like,
I think at this point they just put it into ChatGPT and get like 10 different things, and then just schedule them to post them.
Yeah, mate, I wouldn't rule that out, but yeah, there just seems to be the same sort of thing rehashed. I mean, obviously, this is a slightly different update because we didn't really know about that happening before, but yeah, it seems to be very kind of similar. But
it seems like everything's moving in a positive direction, and that can only be good for the club.
Yeah, I would think so as well. I would think so as well, mate. Let's take it forward to the game. We've got a game on Wednesday. We've got a game on Wednesday. That's not necessarily a good thing.
We're going to get swarmed by the bees.
Yeah, we're going to get stung by the bees, probably. I wouldn't be surprised. You've got Brentford, West London derby on Wednesday night. Lampard's still looking for his first win since coming back in as Chelsea manager for the rest of the season with 4 losses in a row. I don't know when the last time we lost 5 consecutive games on the spin was. I imagine that will be a good number of years since that happened. If anyone wants to look up,
it was 2 months ago under Potter.
Yeah, if anyone in the chat wants to look up when the last time we lost 5 games in a row was, then feel free to do so and let us know. But it's safe to say, mate, it's not been the best of returns for Lampard. I don't think anyone expected any great shakes. Did you expect us to have lost every game so far?
I certainly didn't expect us to beat Real Madrid. Let's put it that way. I think there are some of the other games where I think we expected to see a bit more of a performance and a bit more of a reaction from some of the players, and we haven't seen that. When that's disappointing. I'm not expecting any tactical genius maneuvers because that's not who Lampard is really. But what I do expect to see is energy and effort and passion and actually trying. And some of the players are, and I think it's fair to say in the game, most recent game is the second leg of Real Madrid, we did play better than we have recently, I would say. And it looked like there was a lot of energy and looked like there was a lot of desire to try and actually get something out of the game. And that makes sense because it was the biggest game of the season at that point. But now we need to, now that the season's dead, we need more or less. We need to see that continuing, that we need to see that mindset change continue, where there's a bit more aggression, a little bit, the heads don't drop after if we go 1-0 down, all that sort of thing. Yeah. And as well, I think it's a good opportunity in this game to maybe see something a little bit different, maybe see some new players, some fringe players, some young players, because, for us to get relegated, Everton would have to win something like 5 out of the last 7. Forest would have to win 4 out of the last 7, something like that, and it's just not going to happen. So we're not going to get relegated. But so in thinking about it that way, I think it'd be good to see some youth players. I think it'd be good to give some players a well-needed rest from this season. Players like Reece James. Maybe he could go for surgery on his leg finally, stuff like that. So I think, with any luck, we'll see something a little bit different tomorrow.
Well, yeah, I mean, it would be nice to see something different because what we've seen pretty much every game has been utter shit. For a bar, maybe the first 5 or 10 minutes in the Bernabeu, and I guess the first 45 at Stamford Bridge in the return leg, then I'll be honest, mate. I've seen absolutely nothing from Lampard that is any different from what we were watching under Potter. I'm not suggesting, he's had a lot of time to switch or anything, and anything was maybe necessarily going to change at all. But I just look at it, nothing's different. Nothing's different. Forget who's on the touchline. If someone told you that Potter was still in charge,
you believe that, wouldn't you? Yeah.
You'd believe it. Of course you would. How do you see this game going against Brentford? Brentford are a decent side.
Brentford are a decent side. They're very well organised.
I really like them.
They're very well organised. Thomas Frank is a great coach. They do a lot of stuff with data analytics. They're very smart in the way that they recruit. They work very well together as a unit. Brentford, they defend, very well. And they can hit you on the break. They've got, dangerous players. I don't know if even Toney is playing tomorrow.
Yeah, Tony's playing. Unfortunately, mate, I was watching on Saturday.
I was wondering if his ban was going to
he would. Well, mate, he was a yellow card away from a suspension. And I was hoping he was going to get booked against Villa. Didn't happen.
Yeah, exactly. So, I think there's a lot of good players for Brentford, and I don't think we can be expecting necessarily to be anyone at the moment because it's just not the kind of season we're having. But we should be magnitudes better than them. We probably won't be, but we should be.
Mate, the amount of times we've said we should be miles better than a team and then proceeded to be absolutely battered by
the amount of times this season that I've said, well, that was probably the worst performance of the season. I think in the last 3 months, I've said it about 8 times.
Mate, every game I've gone to, I've thought, that was the worst performance of the season. Go the following week. Actually, that might have been the worst. Like,
that might have just tipped it.
That might have topped it. I mean, to be honest, mate, I actually think the worst was Brighton. They just at home.
I'm not sure if that was necessarily us being terrible or them being very good, though.
It was both. They were superb, but
I think West Ham was one of the worst performances.
How good they were made us look even shitter than we are.
Maybe.
I think that was part of the problem, but. I mean, what do we need to do differently to win a game? I know obviously we've got to put the ball in the net, but like
that's a good start.
That's a good start. But I look at it and I just think I feel under Potter we actually created more chances than we have been in the last few games. I think the chance creation under Potter, certainly towards the end, even though we weren't picking up positive results, we certainly created a lot more chances in games. I'm looking at these games on the Lampard. Yes, it's a small sample size, but mate, apart from the 2 Madrid games, we haven't really created that many chances in those league matches.
Yeah, I think that's, it's partially some of the players are a bit lazy. Some of them are devoid of confidence. Some of them, have other stuff going on. Some of them are mentally checked out. Some of them are on the beach, right? So, there's a lot of reasons why we've been struggling as of late, but this is part of the reason why I want to see something a bit different. I want to see some younger players. For the rest of the season, I only want to see players who are going to be here next season. Yeah. I don't want to see Aubameyang. I don't want to see Ziyech. I don't really want to see Azpilicueta as much as he's a servant for the club and we love our Capitano. We need to be sticking with probably some of our younger players, experimenting a little, giving them chances to play now that the season's basically over. It's a good opportunity to give them some cohesion together, give them chances to impress, ahead of the new coach coming in. So for me, I think we need to be seeing some youngsters and I don't know, maybe a different formation, maybe a new keeper, whatever, just something different, something new.
Yeah, we just got to try something because whatever's worked hasn't worked. I mean, I absolutely agree with you. I think you're spot on there when you say that, we can't be playing. We've got nothing to play for now. Absolutely zero. We're not going down. As much as people like to make a bit of a song and dance about it, and it's like a conversation point. We're not going down. The teams below us we're shit, but the teams below us are so shit. So they're not winning enough games to cause us a problem, even if we were to lose every single game. But I just look at it. I think right now, as you said, mate, we have to for the remaining 7 games. Play players that are going to be part of the plans going forward, that are going to be here next season. I don't want to see, as you said, I don't want to see any Hakim Ziyech. I don't want to see Aubameyang. I don't want to see Azpilicueta. I don't want to see Christian Pulisic. I don't want to see these guys. You guys don't want to be here. You're not part of the plans going forward. That's it. We're done. We can't. Why we can't? You're not by playing these guys. It's serving us absolutely zero purpose. It's
absolutely, because in fact, it's even a detriment because it's blocking the chance for someone else who might be here in the long run to play or at least be on the bench and experience that. I think we really need to be seeing the likes of, not necessarily starting, but the likes of David Datro Fofana. We need to be seeing
Yeah.
Chukwuemeka. We need to be seeing Lewis Hall. Like players like that in for the rest of the season now. Mudryk needs to be starting basically every game to get him up to speed as best we can. Too. A lot of these young players, Madueke, him as well. All of these players who he's now paid a lot of money for the future. Now is the perfect time to play them.
It's like a 7-game. It's like I don't want to keep going about it. It's like a 7-game pre-season.
It's like another one.
This,
We've had like 3 pre-seasons this season.
But this is your opportunity to give players experience and minutes in what you would say is essentially. I don't want to write these games off as dead rubber games because I don't want to go to games and watch us lose every single week. But almost is like the pressure's off. There's no expectancy on Chelsea to do anything in any of these games. So this is an opportunity for guys to come in, get minutes, get more established in the side, get more used to the Premier League before hitting pre-season and then being part of the squad next season. This is almost a chance to bed these guys in. So for me, there literally is no excuse for the likes of Datro Fofana, Chukwuemeka, Madueke, Mudryk, etc.
Maybe you see 1 or 2 of them on the bench. Maybe, because
but they should be featuring and they should be in the squad. That's the point. They should be in the squad.
Yeah, like absolutely should be in the squad. I could see some of these ones who maybe need to leave the club this summer, being not selected but being part of the squad and things like that. For fitness, for minutes, for being in the shop window, things like that. But if we're thinking about it realistically and we're thinking about it objectively, the more important thing is for us to perform next season, not for us to get money out of not to get an extra 2 million out of Ziyech. So when we sell him inevitably. So the important thing really needs to be having the some youngsters playing, with a little bit of fight and a little bit of grit. It doesn't need to be anything major. Like you say, the season's basically over. So, it's now is a really good chance to experiment because we don't necessarily need results. We don't expect them either. So give us some youngsters, give us something to, something different, something interesting to watch.
Players that actually care about the club would be nice as well.
Be a good start, wouldn't it?
I don't think that's too much to ask. Mate, very briefly before we get into this team quickly, what are your thoughts on Ivan Toney? I myself am a huge fan, been banging the Toney drum for a while now. I'd love to see him at Stamford Bridge next season. I don't know how likely it is with Ban hanging over his head, etc., and how long that's going to be. But what are your thoughts on him? Because we'll see him on Wednesday night and we'll see him play. I don't want to say it's a dress rehearsal for him because it probably isn't. Well, we don't know. But what are your thoughts on him as a forward? Because I think 23 goals and assists in the Premier League season for a team like Brentford is phenomenal. If you did that in a Big Six club, if you did that in a top club, people would be calling him world class. They would.
It's important to know.
On him? Do you like him?
Yeah, I do. It's important to think as well, that he's getting that kind of those kind of numbers with the service of a smaller club. So the players aren't necessarily as good. If he goes somewhere where there's a little bit better service, I'm not saying us because our service is terrible, but like someone like Man City or what have you, he might be getting a lot more goals and a lot more assists as well. I think he's a great striker. I think he's one of those sort of kind of deadly strikers who just kind of knows where the goal is, or like a proper kind of number 9 through and through. I like him a lot. He seems to have a really good deal of physicality to his game as well, which I think is something that we lack. But the biggest question mark around him is this ban, about how long he's going to be banned for. It's almost not really worth considering him until we know at least the length of it. And then, you're not going to bother until he's out of the ban anyway. So I don't know. I think he'll be made an example of as well. I think because of how many separate offences there were for it all, and someone like, I think it was Joey Barton got banned for betting on a handful of games.
I think he did like one game.
Yeah, it wasn't many, and he got banned for quite a while. So and Toney's, I think he said there was like 120 or something ridiculous.
Mate, over like 200. It's about 200. Okay. 34 or something. It's mad.
So a crazy amount. So I think he'll be banned for a long time, and it's I think that's a shame because to a certain degree I understand it's part of their contract, but I'm not sure the punishment will necessarily fit the crime. Reckon they'll throw the book at him for it, but we'll see.
I'm surprised it's taking so long.
I think they're probably trying to make sure that their due diligence is right, to make sure the case is watertight, because if it isn't, he can just get away with it, and and he shouldn't be able to get away with it, but he also shouldn't be, in my opinion, quite so harshly
I mean,
reprimanded.
I
But
mean,
I get it as well.
yeah.
It's a sporting integrity
I
issue.
mean, yeah, it is. I mean, I just look at it and I think, I mean, maybe it's just me, but I look at it, I think, as long as you're not betting on yourself to score, or giving out, telling people to bet on certain outcomes, giving like insider information or whatever, does it really matter if you're having a fucking accumulator on a few Prem games?
Yeah,
I don't know if I'm being too simplistic here and just
I
totally
think the
missing the
question
point.
is with it is once you open the door, it's like, it's kind of like Pandora's box, isn't it? It's like, where's the line?
Yeah,
So, I think the only real solution is to have a carte blanche, kind of like a blanket ban for it, because I don't think there's enough nuance. Well, there might be too much nuance in it to be actually able to, realistically kind of work out what is the difference between someone violating sporting integrity and cheating and someone just doing a cheeky acca on the weekend,
yeah.
Yeah, it-
Yeah, no, it's fair. It's fair. I mean,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, I hope it's not long because I would love to see him here. But let's see
I
what
I
happens.
think ultimately the thing is he's got insider information, isn't he? To a certain degree about
Yeah,
like certain
I
stuff
suppose
about
so.
like like I I don't. It might sound silly or something, but maybe he speaks to one of his teammates beforehand in a game, and his teammates doesn't like another player on the other team, and he says, "I'm going to crunch him today." So he thinks,
Yeah,
"Oh yeah, I'll put a cheeky backer on him to get a yellow card." Do you know what I
yeah.
mean? So it's not necessarily stuff that's like really really awful. It's just like he's clearly got an inside lane, so it's you know it. It's the kind of the only way to deal with the
I mean, I think
situation,
here, I
unfortunately.
think when Trippier got banned, what he was doing was what he just basically told a load of his mates to put a load of money on him joining Atletico Madrid. That's what he. So that's. I think that's a little bit different. But yeah, mate,
Yeah,
let's get into this team then. When you need to go, just let me know, mate, and no worries.
sure.
Would you stick with the back three?
I would.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know. It kind of depends a little bit on personnel, but yeah, back three seems all right.
I think a back three seems all right. I know you're not really that keen on Kepper,
I'm
but if
not, but he's had a good season, but I just think you can't rely on him. And now that the season is truly over, I think
yeah.
it's a good opportunity now to give Mendy some minutes potentially, but
I don't
I
think
don't
Mendy's.
see it happening.
I don't think Mendy's going to play for Chelsea again. I'll be real.
You might be right.
I don't think he
He's
will.
far more
Which is
likely to leave in the summer than Kepa is. That's for sure.
yes. Although I think I'd rather Kepa leave just because he's on a lot more money.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't, mate. Who do you think's worth more in the market, Kepa or Mendy? I think Mendy's stocks have massively dropped.
Well, I think he's probably it's probably because he's not played more than anything else. Uh, I think that's kind of it. Like when a player really isn't in the strop window, his value is naturally going to depreciate. There's people in the chat saying that Kepa hasn't had a good season.
He has had a good season
He has had a good season for himself
for
personally.
himself. Yeah, like,
I'm
but
not
do you know
saying for
what?
the club.
Do you know
Like,
what's mad? Right?
I know he can't listen, Cuzzy. I understand he can't save long shots to save his life. I'm the first person to dig out Kepa for long shots. I absolutely am. But in a lot of games, I think you've got to give him a little bit of credit because a lot of games
Against
he kept us
Brighton,
in it.
we'd have lost 4-5-6-1 if he wasn't in goal.
For sure.
That's just, and look, I'm not saying he's been like some sort of unbelievable keeper for us this season, but from where he's come in his Chelsea's career to what he's doing now, he's had a good season. I'm not saying
Yeah, I
Chelsea
also
have not had a
don't.
good season, but he's for his standards, he's had a good season.
And it's worth saying as well. I don't think he's good enough to be number one,
Oh,
and
he's
I
not.
don't think
He's
he
not.
ever. And I personally don't think he ever has been. But I do think that by his standards, and his standards aren't that high, that he's had a good season for himself.
I'd probably say it's his best season at Chelsea since
Yeah,
he's been there.
maybe, but and considering the amount of mistakes and kind of underwhelming performances we've seen from him, as well as a few like good performances as well. We'll cut him some slack. It kind of shows his level where he's not really, for me, that elite keeper.
Yeah,
That could take us forward.
I would 100% agree. My back three, mate, and I'm sure you will agree. Potentially, Wesley Fofana, in one of them, Thiago Silva, obviously,
Yeah, I would say
and
so.
and Badia Shield.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. That should be, that should probably be the back three for the rest of the season. I
would almost argue
potentially Thiago Silva
should be the back three next season as well.
Potentially, I know Thiago Silva might not be here next season.
He signed a contract to be here.
Yeah, but he might end up going to what is it?
Brazil, maybe. Fluminense. I think it's Fluminense or something.
Yeah, Fluminense. So I'm not necessarily that fussed about having Silva in the squad or not at this point, but he does bring a rigidity. He gives us more of a chance to win games.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that, to me, mate, I would think that this should be the back three next season if we were to go the back three. I mean, obviously, I don't know where Levi Colwill fits into all that, but let's wait and see. But I think one area of the pitch that I'm not concerned about, and I don't think any Chelsea fan should be concerned about, is our defensive options.
No, I'm very happy with our defensive options, and it's why I think a lot of people get frustrated at three at the back. But
I actually quite like it. It's grown on me a bit.
It suits our best players, and it's very conducive to how we play. A lot of our best academy graduates are defenders.
Yeah,
so let's lean into it. Play three at the back.
Exactly. I think obviously left wing back Chilwell's going to come straight back in.
Yeah, almost certainly. It would be nice to see Lewis Hall there, but I don't think he'll play.
Man, we haven't seen him for a long time now, which is Reece James on the right.
Almost certainly.
Almost certainly, yeah. I think
even though he's not been fantastic lately, and he probably does need his surgery.
Yeah,
if it was up to me, I don't think James would play again for the rest of the season. He'd go get surgery now, come back ready, fit in the summer.
But I would agree, mate. Like apart from the fact, as you say, I don't think there's actually any point in Reece James playing for the rest of this season. Send him off, get done what needs to be done. Get him fit,
get him right, and then he can come back and smash next season. Him and Gusto can really fight for that position.
I mean, I don't know if you saw it in the Madrid game, but like there was a moment where Reece just he looked a bit odd. Like he looked like literally he done like a run up the pitch or something, and he just looked absolutely fucked. And he went to the sidelines and I think he took a couple of tablets or whatever they were, and then he just wasn't quite the same for that game. I just don't think he's fit at the moment.
Yeah, I think, and to a certain degree, maybe it's just a case he's got to do like the same thing Kante did. Just go for the surgery. You're out for as long as you're out, and that's it.
Yeah, I mean, if Gusto was here, mate, I think we would have sent him for the surgery.
Sure. Would have done it months ago. You got Loftus-Cheek for backup at right wing back or whatever. You can have Aspi or Chalobah, deputised there as well if you have to. But
wait, Gusto last night, by the way, was embracing his inner shells. Last minute own goal for Lyon to lose. That's my right back.
Yeah, there we go. It's begun.
It's begun, yeah. Central midfield, mate. I presume you would agree with me on Enzo and Kante in that pivot.
Yeah, it can't be anyone else really. I'm a bit fed up of watching Kovacic play.
I was going to say, mate, I've gone off cover a little bit. I know that sounds a bit harsh, but
I think I was one of the people to not to sound like a hipster, but I dislike cover when everyone else still liked him.
Were you trendsetting there?
Maybe, but I think that it was all just down to the fact that, he kind of just doesn't get the goals and assists that you think he needs. It's not the be-all and end-all for a midfielder, but the best teams have midfielders who contribute goals and assists, and Kovac almost never gives any.
Mate, this is the thing, right? And look, I think Kovacic is a good midfield player and has been very good. I think he's very good for Croatia as well. He seems to get more goals for Croatia. It probably helps having Modric and Brozovic around you, in fairness.
Sure.
I just look at him for Chelsea, and yeah, he scores a few worldies here and there. Yes, he's progressive and he's good with the ball in midfield, but he doesn't contribute any assists whatsoever, and he doesn't score that many goals. So I often look at it and I think, well, what is he doing in this team?
Yeah, and the answer is he's progressing the ball, he's keeping it ticking over, and things like that. But but I think you need to see a bit more from a midfielder these days. He's a world-class dribbler, but that's not the only thing a midfielder should be. I think if his passing was better, he would almost be the complete package, because everything else he's kind of passable at, except shooting, really. But if his passing
shooting sometimes,
well, yeah, but it's like one in a blue moon, isn't it? In terms of passing, if his passing was a bit more Enzo-like, where he could really ping it around, I think it would be much more likely he would stick around, but he just doesn't quite have that final ball. He doesn't quite have the strength defensively, and he doesn't quite have the goal threat. So when you've only got dribbling as your kind of only elite asset as yourself as a player,
it's a problem.
What else, what else can you really do?
Yeah, it is. It is a problem. It is a problem. I would certainly agree on that. But yeah, I think if it's a 2, it's definitely going to be Enzo and Kante. It simply has to be.
Yeah,
That Fofana wasn't part of the under-21 squad today, so maybe he's part of the team for Wednesday. Maybe.
I hope so.
Unless he's injured, there's no reason for him to be left out of that 21 squad. No reason at all.
No, not at all. I think people be hesitant about him necessarily starting the game, but I would like to see him on the bench
squad.
at least.
Yeah, should be on the squad.
I think people want to throw him in very early, and it's not. It's not.
Yeah, I remember earlier in the season calling for him.
And I think everyone did at one point, but I think we can see that he's probably still a little green. Probably needs a loan, really. But it's nice to have him on the bench for sure.
Agreed. I think one position we can definitely agree on in this front three is Mudryk. Has to start on the left-hand side.
Has to start every game now until the end of the season.
Mate. He was our best player against Brighton, I think it was against Brighton. Yeah, against Brighton.
Yeah, had his best game for us.
And his first 90, and then didn't even get in the team against Madrid from the start. That really baffled me. I couldn't get my head around it at all. But Mudryk on the left-hand side. Now, mate, a few options here. Do you think Mason Mount's is in line for a start in this game? We've seen a few appearances from the bench now. He must be fit to at least start. I would have thought. But would you start him on the right hand side?
I think he's more likely. If he's more likely to start, he'll be in midfield. I think he'll be on the bench and he'll come on. I don't think he'll start unless it's a midfield 3. Then it's a different question. But I think on the right hand side, you've got a few players who are a bit better in that kind of that right hand channel. And we know how Lampard likes to utilize Mount more as a midfielder than a forward. So I would expect to see him in midfield.
I would agree. I mean, do you think there's any chance of Gallagher starting again? Lampard seems to quite like using Gallagher.
It could be Gallagher. Could be Gallagher on the right hand side. Could be Madueke as well.
For me personally, I'd like to see Madueke.
It may well could be Madueke.
Yeah, I think so, mate. One person for sure, mate. Let's stick Madueke in. One person for sure it's not going to be. I'll be absolutely fuming if it is. It better not be fucking Sterling. I'm sorry.
Yeah, he's having an absolute mare in this.
It's not the only one. I want to preface this by saying he's not the only one. But fuck me, he's been so shit this season. Like from expectation to what we've got, is like I don't think there's been anyone worse. If I'm being honest. The guy's come in. He said that he left City because he wants to be the main man. He's on like main man money, over 300k. I think he's the highest paid player at the club. And the guy's putting in not main man performances. He's putting in side man performances. Like you cannot come in and say these things and be on the money that you're on and perform like you're performing for this team. And
I like that as a phrase, he's on main man money.
He's on, I don't really know
where t-shirt.
I don't even. But he is though. He's on main man money. He's on main man money. You can't
side man performances. You're not wrong.
I mean, to be fair, I might copyright that. Fabrizio's got that. Here we go. I might have main man money, side man performance.
Exactly. I think Sterling he's a bit more of a, I don't know, he's almost like a bit more of a poacher than anything else, and I don't think it helps we ask him to be a dribbler when he isn't one. But at the same time, he's a quality player. He should be able to provide much better quality and leadership in the team this season than he has been. I think he's probably on the beach. I think he's probably
I think a lot of these players are on the beach.
Yeah, but I think him especially. I think he probably gave up trying quite a few months ago.
Sterling's a flop no one talks about. Yeah, I think that's the worst thing. Like Sterling's dribbling and his close controls one of his best things. He's not doing that. He just isn't doing that. So hopefully
But the thing is, I don't think he's there necessarily to beat a man because he's not got explosive pace to do it. He's more like, for little sort of inside, like cutting into the box and inside balls and like little 1-2s and things like that, rather than someone like Mudryk with sort of blistering 1v1 pace.
Needs better players around him. We are starting to put better players around him. Obviously, he's not got anywhere near the quality he had around him at City, but still, there's enough there for him to be doing better than he is. There's enough there to be doing better than he is. It's the same thing
I've always said about Potter. Potter was not given the best situation to deal with as a Chelsea coach, but he should have done better with what he had. And Sterling's the same. Sterling's not been put into the best situation for his first season at Chelsea. But he should have done a lot better with it so far than what he has done for his quality.
I would 100% agree. Mate, final one before we round out. Who would you start through the middle? Obviously, this can be fluid and rotate. I mean, you got what? We've kind of said, I know in the chat, Oggy COYB wants Datro Fofana. We've kind of touched on that, probably isn't quite ready with using from the bench. Havertz and Felix is like picking between. I don't really know what it's like picking between. I haven't really got an analogy to lose.
It's like the difference between being shot in the arm and shot in the leg. It's going to hurt either way. You know?
Yeah. You've got to be shot somewhere. Like you just got to pick one of them. But who would you go with?
It's a tough one. I don't know. Havertz, I think, is a bit of a better goal threat. Felix is probably playing a little bit better. I don't know. Should we say Havertz on balance? You know,
yeah, I would
Felix
probably go
maybe
Havertz
comes
as
on.
well.
I think there's more. You know, you can if you know maybe one of Madueke and Mudryk not playing so well, or maybe Madueke is not playing so well. You can swap Havertz onto that right hand side, bring Felix on, or Datro, or even Aubameyang.
Absolutely not Aubameyang. As we said earlier, like no disrespect to Aubameyang, but the guy doesn't want to be here. He's not part of the plans. Like, he shouldn't be playing.
No, he's basically poor Aubameyang has basically had a year off because he was bought for a specific manager who we then sacked like 2 days later, and you know he should never have been brought to the club in the first place.
The owners have got. I like a lot of the things the owners have done. The timing of the major decisions have been terrible, and arguably one of their worst decisions was signing Aubameyang, knowing they were going to bin Tuchel.
Yeah,
like that was horrendous, really shit. Just last word on Felix, mate. What are your thoughts on him? Because I look at him and I think there's a very talented player there for sure. You can see the quality he has when he does play for us. But again, I just don't know if we need to be looking at spending 80 million on another forward that's not got good output.
It's all mouth, no trousers, Charlie. You know, like it's all foreplay. Do you know what I mean? Like
mate, he's the four. Yeah, exactly. That's it, mate. That is exactly it. And then when it really matters, he doesn't deliver.
He is blue balls FC. That's what
it is. But I love that. Felix is all foreplay. That's class.
Yeah, but it's true, isn't it? You know, it's the same.
But it is.
Same as Kovacic, where like a little bit where you expect him to be providing a little bit more going forward. You expect to see some more numbers for him, and it all looks very pretty. But where's the end product? You know, and that's the thing that frustrates me about Felix the most. You can say whenever he does play that he probably looks like our most dangerous attacker. Granted, that's not hard, but
not hard.
At the same time, you know, I think being a lone player, the standards are a little bit higher for you. You know, whether it's fair or unfair, the standards are a little bit higher for a lone player because you're essentially auditioning for a permanent.
You're on trial, yeah.
You're auditioning for your permanent role, and I personally don't think Felix has done enough to earn that. Yeah, I mean, he might play just to get the money's worth out of his contract, out of his loan.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be upset if we didn't sign him.
No, I wouldn't be either. And the premise for me on signing Felix is only sign him. He'd be a luxury signing. Only sign him if there's money left over after you've addressed a goalkeeper, a defensive midfield player, and a centre forward. Only then. If there's money left,
even then, we've got Nkunku coming in anyway. Who plays a very similar position. Felix is going to cost like 80 million minimum. Like it's not
too much money.
It's not a smart use of our money, especially when we've got a whole spine of the team to build, more or less.
I would absolutely agree on that. Absolutely agree on that one. Mate, let's round this one out then. Last thing to do: score prediction for Wednesday night. I'll be honest, mate. I've got no faith in this team to do anything. No faith, no expectations. I'm just 1% chance, 99% faith these days with this team. I'll be honest, mate. I think we're going to lose 2-0. There we go. I've said it. We're going to lose.
To balance it out, I'll back us and I'll say we're going to win 1-0.
We're going to win 1-0. Fair. Well, mate, I'd love to be wrong. I would love to be wrong, but yeah, guys, seems like a good good place to round this one out. Thanks so much for getting involved in the chat. As always, appreciate each and every one of you in there. I try to get through as much of it as I can. Thanks for tuning in. Ollie, thanks for your time as always, mate. Massively appreciated. Always pleasure to chat all things Chelsea. Guys, make sure you follow Ollie on Twitter, linked in the description and in the display name as well. So make sure you check him out. You can also check me out on Twitter as well for some lukewarm takes, some good ones. So yeah, you can give me a follow as well, linked in the description
And
and,
if
on
that
my
isn't
display note.
if that isn't the best sell of a Twitter account
Yeah.
you've ever heard, you know.
Yeah, guys, I've really sold myself there. I've really endorsed myself. Give me a follow for some lukewarm footballing takes. That's what I offer. They offer a bit more than that, but there are some decent takes if I don't say so myself. But yeah, guys, thank you for tuning in as always. Massively appreciate it. Smash the likes on the way out. Make sure you subscribe to the channel as well. On the way to 3,000 subscribers, almost there now, guys. So every new subscriber helps. So please do hit that big red subscribe button if you haven't done so already. Hopefully Chelsea can get their first win under Frank Lampard. I'm not feeling confident. Let's see what happens. But yeah, guys, Pochettino is imminent. Let's wait and see if we get an announcement tomorrow or an announcement this week. But things are going in the right direction. And let's just remember, guys, Wednesday, one game less to the end of the season. So we can all get there. We can all do it. I'll be back Wednesday with a match vlog and Thursday with the match reaction in more detail. So stay tuned for that content, guys. But until then, take care and up the Chelsea.